Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about the alerts and workflow and actionable insights and showing you 10 ways to improve your business using the Knowledge Sync product known as alerts and workflow for you guys. Just to give you a quick background bit on myself, I am a technical services team lead at ECI. So most of what I do is working with customers on upgrades, migrations, and new installs of whatever their product is. But about 6 years ago, I started working with Knowledge Sync, and I've been very impressed with the product. And then eventually it came into the ECI fold, which was fortunate for me because it gave me even more chance to work with it. But I think one of the coolest things about it is just how all encompassing it can be. And it doesn't really matter what you're trying to monitor, whether it's your accounting software, your manufacturing software, whatever. We've got a solution for that. It works on the premise that the data is there and you're able to cull from that data the stuff that's the most important to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and pop into my next slide here. And let's just talk about a little history of sort of the idea of alerts. And 20 years ago, there really wasn't even so much an alert system. It was pretty much that a report had to be run. And typically, reports were something that you would send off your requirements to a different group, and somebody who was tucked away in the basement would write that report up and get it generated and sent to you. And it was a very manual process of anything that you wanted to be alerted to. Now, today we have a variety of different tools at your fingertips that can go out and pull this data. And it's everything from dashboards to friendly reporting versus the stuff that was just all grid lines and numbers. And you can create, much more personalized search capability within your products typically. But the catch is you still have to go get the data you want. You have to ask for that dashboard or chart or report, and you have to go somewhere and do something for it to come up. And once you do that, you still have to decide what to do with it once you have it. And then you or one of your colleagues is off on a quest to get that done. And our hope here is that alerts and workflow can maybe be that silent partner for you where you can skip some of that middle ground and say, okay, I know what needs to be done if this thing happens. And if that, for example, a customer places an order and someone needs to email an order acknowledgement, let alerts and workflow do that for you. Take the middle person out of there, because we all know that we can get buried under a pile of email and other things to do. Let alerts and workflow do that for you in the background here. So we can automate the detection of the critically needed information. 75% of what you need to know, but let's avoid you having to go in and request it. Let us let you know when there's information out there that meets those conditions. We can automate the delivery of that information. So different people might have different things they want to see. Some people are going to want it in plain text. Sometimes you'll be sending something to a customer that's, very friendly sort of business letter format. Other times you might have people internally who want to slice and dice some numbers out of the database. And so you're just going to present them the information they want in a table so that they could then copy and paste that table into Excel and do what they need to with it. And then also automate the process of acting on that information. Again, you could have Knowledge Sync alerts and workflow let you know when there is a new order placed, but you could also skip that middle step of, now I have to take that information and do something with it. Let alerts and workflow take some of that information for you. So how does this all relate? Well, alerts and workflow is your silent partner, your big brother, your smoke detector for your business data. And it combines the capability of data mining, looking through your entire database, setting an alert and even executing some workflow to update certain things or set other items in motion, um, and automates that if then business process within your applications. So with alerts and workflow, if this activity or condition happens, then do that. So some examples: if an order ships, then send an invoice to the client. If a PO needs to be approved, then notify your CFO. And what's the best way? Email, text message. We have those capabilities. If a client has overdue invoices, then put them on credit hold, flip a switch in the database using an update query. If an item drops within 10% of its reorder level, then create a purchase order and send it to your supplier. Or if a repeat buyer has not purchased in 30 days, then notify their sales rep to follow up with that person. Again, get away from the let's go hunt for all of these things that might be happening. Let alerts and workflow do that hunting and notification for you. And that way you can do it on a timely basis, not when you can get around to it, but on a schedule. And so by automating that, if then, we're giving you 3 benefits for your organization. The first is it saves you time. Alerts and workflow automates tasks that are currently being done manually. So, eliminate some of that busy work. In one of the classes that I teach for Knowledge Sync, I always give the story that I'm one of the few people that doesn't have to travel within the consulting team. And because I'm always in the office, people know to come and bug me to go run reports and pull up files and send them back to them. And so this has given me a channel where they can just email in, Knowledge Sync sees that email, turns that around into something to be sent back out, and I don't even have to see it or know about it. It makes you more responsive. And so business scenarios that are time sensitive and don't usually get looked at soon enough, you can get the notification. And so you're finding out before instead of after. And it increases your knowledge. So you don't have the time to go digging for all of this activities, but alerts and workflow can do that for you and let you know so that you can then take the action versus, again, being caught blindsided by that fact. And so most business applications do offer some type of alerts, but alerts and workflow offers that alerts on steroids type of notification. So it's enterprise wide. It can watch all of your business applications and databases if you want it to. And it also has the capability to even look out to cloud sources for data. If you're familiar with using APIs at all, you actually do have the ability to both pull information in from an API as well as write information back out through an API. It's also cross-application. So again, you can monitor multiple databases from different products and compare and contrast the information to make sure that everything is staying current between the two. And it does more. So Alerts and Workflow has been doing this for over 20 years, and we tout that we have 60 features missing from other applications, embedded alerts. I mean, again, we're just that alerts on steroids, where we've been doing this for long enough. We know what people want, and we have tried to add as much of that as we possibly can. So let's talk about 10 ways specifically that alerts and workflow can help your business. So alerts and workflow automates that form delivery. Again, do you have somebody whose primary job is just generating repetitive forms? And is the information that's getting put into those forms something that you could just pull from the database and populate into a report or into an email body? And so we have a lot of different things that you could automate the sending of: quotes, invoices, dunning notices, pick lists, purchase orders. You again, all of that information is out there in your database, and so let alerts and workflow work for you to find that information. And and then massage it into something usable and send to the correct resource. So a real life example there, when an invoice is more than 30 days past due, email it to the client along with the payment reminder. Again, something that, is probably happening manually right now, but something that can be easily automated for you. We also automate that exception management. So a lot of times when you go and run a report, it tells you everything that's happening, but what it doesn't tell you sometimes is what's not happening. And so when someone hands you a report, is the first thing you do grab a highlighter and start marking things up to find the difference? What are those things that you need to know? Um, and so if an invoice's discount exceeds 15%, notify finance and put the customer on hold, or put the order on hold. So again, just keeping things in front of the right people at the right time when something isn't the way it should be. It also improves your time sensitivity. So again, uh, anybody in here busy? I know that I get that way sometimes, and there's a ton of little things that I need to be doing that, frankly, because they're kind of small, they get brushed to the side and they become when I can get to them items. Use alerts and workflow to be that I got to it tool. And because sometimes those little things I need to do are just to go and take a look. Are all of my technicians assigned to something? And is it spread out evenly, or is somebody getting swamped? Let alerts and workflow take a look for you and let you know if something like that isn't correct. And as far as the date sensitivity, you know, keeping me on track with that, letting me know, before a due date, before a required date from the customer. Um, does my system show me that we're close to being completed? Um, and so again, a real life scenario there. If a lease is due for renewal in 30 days, send a request for renewal quote to the vendor. So now monitoring thresholds in real times. Do you use some type of a tool to go out and look for your benchmarks? Well, alerts and workflow has that capability to do those types of things for you as well. And um, as well, you can have different events that go out there and look for different thresholds. So maybe you don't just want to know, did I make the number, but let me know on the ones that I was just close to making the number, because maybe we just need to fine tune a process a little bit. Or, let me know if I'm way far from that number because maybe my goals are unrealistic, or maybe there's some system that's broken in the process that we can fix there as well. And it lets you know in that timely manner as well. So again, you can address those things when they come up versus, once a quarter, once a year, when you take the time to sit down and look back at it. And so if an order for over $10,000 is more than 30 days past due, alert the sales rep and their manager. So again, letting the people who need to know that information, and you can have the alerts do different things depending on different levels. So maybe at 30 days, it just alerts the sales rep. Maybe at 60 days, it alerts the sales rep and their manager. And maybe at 90 days, it alerts the sales rep, their manager, and the company owner. Streamlining approval processes is another thing that this can do for you. And so, do purchase orders ever sit on someone's desk just waiting for information? And a lot of times that kind of thing can happen. Again, anybody ever gotten busy? Because things will come across my desk, even if it's something like a vacation request, that all I need to do is go in and click approve, but it just gets buried under the pile. Well, if if you take a look at our real life example here, if a PO is due for greater than $999, text the CFO for their approval. So again, sometimes it's just that tickler, just the the reminder that, hey, I need to go out and approve this thing to keep things moving forward. So if there are workflows within your system, you can watch for those things that aren't happening and send the tickler out to the person who needs to do that. And it enables system-wide auditing. So you have your ERP and your related apps, and are there pieces of information that go between the two systems? And so we have the ability to take a look at things like credit limits that might be in your CRM system, but not your ERP system, or vice versa, and pass things information back and forth. Again, comparing that information and sending it to the appropriate person who can go out and reconcile that. And then possibly even taking it the next step where if it sees something that does not coordinate, go ahead and run an update query to get those things in sync. Okay. And so here again is another real life scenario. If a client's credit limit changes, capture both the old and the new limits and save this for the future. Why did it change? Who changed it? How much did it change? Again, key pieces of information that maybe your system doesn't capture, but you can have alerts and workflow watch for those type of changes. Report generation and distribution. So this is kind of back to one of the first examples there. And is there somebody whose job it is just to run and distribute reports? Well, how often do they need to be run, and who runs them, and how much staff time does it take each day, each week, and each month to get through all of those things? And then ad hoc reports. Is that something that still either has to go through IT to get created? And then, again, do they get forgotten? Is somebody having to do those manually? Alerts and workflow gives you the capability to run those reports. And whether that is a report that you're just sending out the information by email, or if you've actually got a Crystal report, you can have, or a SQL reporting services report, you can have alerts and workflow run that report and send the PDF to the appropriate recipient. Again, versus having somebody who has to manually just sit and grind through a stack of reports that are, the daily fare. And so a real life use. It's Monday at 9 a.m. That means it's time to run and distribute the weekly AR and AP reports. We can also improve the quality of your data. And so do you have bad or missing data in your applications, and does that create a challenge? I mentioned a minute ago about with the system-wide idea and the capability of alerts and workflow to monitor multiple systems, you can actually make sure that you're keeping information in sync between multiple systems, whether it's looking for addresses and making sure that they're the same between two systems, or looking for things like in your database, somebody went into the email address field and put in an email address without an @ sign. You can watch for things like that, anomalies that can happen, things where a quantity should never be 0, and let you know of those things so that you can address them to hopefully, bad data in a database can do everything from throw your numbers off to actually cause errors. There's a bug in one of the manufacturing softwares that I work with, excuse me, where unfortunately the system won't prevent you from creating a customer with an ampersand in the customer ID. But if you have an ampersand in the customer ID, every time you try to run a billing report for that customer, it fails because it uses that ampersand as part of the code. So you can use Knowledge Sync to go through and just say, hey, just run an ongoing check. And if a customer ID gets created with any of these special characters, let me know so we can go out and fix it. You can also use it to monitor for duplicate items, like if there's duplicate items in stock, put their details in an email and send it to the warehouse manager. That way, that person can take a look and say, okay, are they really duplicates? Do I need to do something to differentiate these records further, or do I need to merge them? And then inactivity is the other thing. Now, that's one of the hardest things to detect a lot of times, because most of the reports that people write are based on the idea of if this happened, show me the information in a report. Well, what if something didn't happen? What if a customer didn't order? What if a job didn't ship on time? And this gets that in the hands of the people who might not realize, hey, we've got a problem here. But because it's not, screaming out at us in the existing reports, we can't really address it. And so you can use alerts and workflow to let you know if a client hasn't ordered in 30 days. You can have it notify their sales rep, or you could even trigger something in a CRM system to schedule a phone call. And then finally, there's the capability to trigger intelligent application updates. And so again, there's those workflow items. If one thing happens, then do another thing. And so if an item is below its minimum reorder point, have alerts and workflow create a PO for it and send it out. And whether it's creating it in the database, creating it as an email, those things are available depending on what kind of an event, either action or workflow item you're taking with that. If an item hasn't sold in 30 days, lower its price, or at least let somebody know, hey, maybe this is too high. So again, just a list of ifs and thens that you can have alerts and workflow manage for you. So again, that idea, if a customer is so far overdue, put them on credit hold. So if you want to think of the idea of how alerts and workflow works, you've got these different steps kind of in the process. So we've got first, monitor, keep an eye on the data sources, whether that's a cloud application, an on-premise application. You can even monitor incoming email and train your people that are out in the field. If you send a message with a particular subject, Knowledge Sync can turn around and generate a report based on the information in that email and send it back to you. Then notify when those things are happening. And again, we can do it either by emailing somebody or sending a text message, or we can even do FTPs where we run a report and copy it out to somebody's folder or copy it out onto an FTP site. We can create forms and documents. So again, either with Crystal reports or SSRS reports. Knowledge Sync is great in what it does, maybe as far as some formatting and conditional formatting and things like that. It may not, be the sharpest instrument in the toolbox. And so you can partner with those other tools, which is actually the next step here, reports, Crystal reports and SQL reporting services, to go ahead and run those reports and send them out or copy them to an appropriate network folder. Finally, we've got some analytics where we can either run a chart, with the idea that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and have Knowledge Sync send you some chart information. You can also use it to monitor your trends over time and hopefully give you that business insight, again, that you don't have to go hunt for, it's just presented to you. And then finally, there's the capability of taking actions so that you can go ahead and run either queries or Visual Basic scripts or whatever it is to update the next thing. So if this, then do that. And that's the automation of the then do that piece of it, where you're saying, go back into the database and change a status or synchronize some data. Okay, so I've talked about it a whole lot here. So let me go ahead and just give you a quick nickel tour here of what we've got in the product to work with. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my machine here. So one of the coolest things about Knowledge Sync, especially compared to the previous version, is that it is now a web-based application. So, and it does time out just like other web-based applications as well. So essentially any machine on your environment with a browser can access this product. So if you're over at somebody's desk, if you're the person who normally handles the creation of reports, and you're over at somebody's desk and they say, hey, you know, this report or this event that you're sending me isn't sending quite the right information that I want, you can say, oh, well, you know, scooch over, let's pull it up on your system. It's still secured by a username and password. So it doesn't mean that everybody can just automatically get in and muck about, but it does give you some portability in the system. So we've got Knowledge Sync here, and the primary area that folks work in is over here in the application events. We've got the different areas. The admin is where you would set your things up, like you're sending from email account and you're sending from text message account, and any preferences for the system. The monitor is the traffic monitor, so if things aren't going through, you could come in here and look. But application events is kind of where you'll live and breathe in the application. And each application under the application events looks at a single data source and then has the components of a queries, events, charts, reports, web APIs, and Visual Basic scripts that are all related to this data source. So I've got a fictional food distribution company that I've got several different events out here for. And your partner will generally have some pre-configured events that they can provide you as well. But I just want to give you a quick idea of what you're looking at. When I started working with alerts and workflow, I was not a good SQL query writer. Select star was pretty much my limit. And I was definitely daunted by the fact that, oh, I've got to go out and write my own queries. But alerts and workflow makes it so easy for you. It actually essentially has a wizard. And so if you come out here, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick an existing one. And so order shipped later than their required date here. And I'm just going to take you through the query for it here. So in the query design area, we've got the description, which is just really the name, but the columns, if you think of the elements of a select query, because that's what these are, they're select. They just go out and pull information in. You've got the select, which is the columns. And that's what I've got listed here at the bottom. These are the columns that I'm calling into my query. You've got the from, which is the tables those columns come from, and that's this selected tables area here in the middle. You've got the joins, which is the links tab. And so I can set up all of my links here. And then you've got the where, which is where you take your larger list and trim it down. And so in this case, I've said, you know, here's all the columns and information that I want. Here's the table joins, and I want to only see records where the ship date was greater than the required date. And these are just columns in my tables. And so with that information, then I can go ahead and hit the preview and get the information that I've requested out of the database from that. And so then all of this information that's in front of me can then be used in a related event to either populate a web page or send a text message or send an email, whatever is required. Now I mentioned I didn't have to be a SQL wizard, but working with events and workflow has made me, or alerts and workflow has made me so much better at it, because in addition to having it sort of a wizard system that I can use, There's even a SQL tab here where I can come in and take a look at, okay, based on everything that I've set up, what does that query look like? And so when I do have to write queries from scratch outside of alerts and workflow, I have a much better grasp just because I'm able to look back at some of this stuff and reverse engineer some of the query techniques here. Okay, and so if that's the query, the query goes out and looks for the information. The event is what controls the timing and then the subsequent alert or action. And so if I come into the events and take a look at my event for orders shipped later than required date, and they don't have to be named the same, it's just kind of a coincidence. I'm able to come out here, make an item active. So because this was pre-configured, we leave it all inactive by default. The schedule, I can come out here and select how often this needs to run. If it's something where I'm looking for a constant change in information, I could have something run every 5 minutes or every 15 minutes. Or if it's something that maybe runs weekly or monthly, I can set up a schedule for that as well. We provide a list of schedules out of the gate, but you're certainly able to go in and create a schedule of your own. So if you have the desire to have something alert you every Thursday morning at 11:37 a.m., that's an option for you. The trigger is the query or queries that the event is going to be based on. And you can, as we discussed, you can also pull information out of a web API, or you can pull information out of script, and that's coming soon. That's still not available. It's kind of a placeholder. But the web API is something that customers I'm starting to see engage with, because so many applications are now cloud-based and they give you a way to get behind the scenes with those APIs. So that can be your data source. Your deliverable, I'll just show you here the different options. If you have the full-blown suite, you have the ability to take the actions, but by default, you'll have the ability to email, text message, or populate a webcast, which is just a web page, sometimes referred to as dashboards. And that way you can have that information out on a screen somewhere just to give everybody visibility. Knowledge Sync can create a chart. It can run a report, and again, that can be a SQL report or a SSRS report. It can also grab files from one location on your network and transfer it either to another network location or outside of your network using the FTP protocol. And then we've got the actions over on the right-hand side, which those are the next step. Those are your if this, then do that. So you have the ability to create a file, piping stuff out into a text document or a CSV file that could be pulled into Excel or another program. Run a Visual Basic script, run a program, run a SQL script, but all of these things, you can pipe in information from your trigger. So maybe it's going to be, if a customer is over their credit limit, then go in and change that customer's status to credit hold. You could run an update query in SQL that does that, and it uses the information from your query to know which customers to do that for. So in this case, I'm using an email deliverable. And notice over here on the right-hand side, I've got all of the different columns that I included in my query. And so I can then use those to populate either the subject or the body of my email message. I can designate the account that it's going to come from, and I can have multiple accounts that I could send from. I also have the capability, right now this is in plain text, but I can uncheck that box, and then I get a little bit more of a Microsoft Word, what you see is what you get sort of feeling here with the different formatting. Now, keep in mind this is HTML, So it's not something that I can run calculations with. I can't do conditional formatting. But again, sometimes it's just that little bit of putting bold in the right places, highlighting certain things with italics, just to get that little eye pop of information on the important pieces of it. Now, again, I don't really know how to write HTML on my own. If I was a wizard, I could come out here into this HTML area and put that information in myself, or I can at least look over here and see what the HTML is based on what I've placed in here. I also have the capability, if there's date information or any type of date variables that I want to throw in to my event, I can go ahead and include those. I've got all of those different variables listed up here that the system can help generate for me. And I can do what's called a summary alert, which is rather than getting one email per late shipped order, I can come out here and put what's called a repeat around my record set. And then I will get one email with all of the record information. My subscribers are going to be the recipients of said emails, and the subscribers, I'm going to leave this event behind here and come out to my subscribers. Subscribers can either be set up manually or they can be culled from the database. So we provide, again, a list, sort of an organization structure, but you don't have to use this. If you don't have a help desk, you can delete that help desk group. It doesn't matter. But you can also do things using what's called subscriber linking, where I can create a group and then go out to my database and pull in the names and email addresses from my database of my employees or of my customers or of my vendors. Whatever, if you can query it, you can pipe it into subscribers groups, and that way, then when you come back into an event and you're asked who you want that event to go to, whoops, wrong application. Then I can come out here, and if I've created a subscriber for them, I can go ahead and include or add that to the recipients list, and I can do groups or individuals or a combination thereof. And each subscriber can have an email address or two. They can also have a copy address or two, which is their network folder that they would get things dropped into. They can have their SMS, their simple messaging service, text message, so essentially their phone number, and then the webcast if they have a specific folder that any dashboard web pages should be sent to them. And finally, you do have the ability as well to use what's called an advanced subscriber. And an advanced subscriber would be a situation where rather than having to create the subscriber, if the information is in the database, you could add that column to the query and then say under the advanced subscriber that the email is coming from that field in my database. So if I wanted my sales reps in this case to receive their order or receive individual notification of the orders that shipped late. So if I take a look here, I've got 7 different orders that were shipped late, and they've got a couple of different email or a couple of different sales reps that they belong to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead here into the columns, and I'm going to, from my sales reps, I'm going to add that employee email field. And so now all of my employees have the same email address, and I must have double clicked because I got it a few times here. So let me go back and get rid of some of the extras. Got a little trigger happy there. And then I'm going to make sure that my records group together here, I'm going to sort them by the last name of the sales rep. So now if I hit my preview, I've got all of the records for the sales reps grouped together. So I'm going to go ahead and update that. And in my advanced subscriber, I'm going to say that this employee email is who it's going to go to. And so it's going to look for each record and say, okay, whoever that sales rep, that email is where this is going to go. Oops, and of course I didn't do a send from, but actually I won't belabor that point. Instead, I've already got some of this set up just to give you a few looks here at some of the output. So I mentioned the ability to send a report. This was a report that goes out and runs and looks for items with excessive freight, runs the report and pipes it out to a PDF, which gets sent. The other thing that I can do though, if my output type is HTML instead of PDF, I can actually have the body of my email be that HTML from the report. So again, I mentioned that alerts and workflow can sometimes be a little bit of a blunt instrument in terms of formatting. Crystal reports and SQL reporting services have a ton more options, like making negative numbers show up in red or bold, and conditional formatting, I would call that. And so if there's things I can't do with one tool, we integrate with another that makes it a little bit more available. Also mentioned the idea of a chart. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, Knowledge Sync can go through and generate some basic charts. Now, again, this isn't as elaborate as an Excel chart where you can, get very granular with what you're selecting as far as your X and Y axis and things like that. But it's a good visual representation if you're trying to get a point across to include in an email message. I talked about a message, or talked about that inactivity monitor. In my fictional food company, this is a list of my customers who didn't order anything in September of 2019. I could take this a step further and break it down and include the sales rep information and have that email the appropriate sales rep. And I've got this for no orders in September 2019, but it could just be no orders last month. And so each sales rep could get a message, with their list of customers who didn't order in the previous month. You can also output stuff. You don't have to use the table. You can output information into more of a text format. And this is my list of late orders shipped here. Mentioned the capability of automating things. So this would be an order acknowledgement. So this is designed to go to the customer. Now, all of my customers and all of my employees and all of my vendors in my test database have the same email address. So pay no attention to that piece of it. But, dear Francis Norman, so I'm pulling that information from the database. And, it gives you the capability, again, to make things. I can even make this not look like a form letter just by personalizing it a little bit, but the things that I'm pulling from the database, the customer's name, the order number, the company name that it's going to be shipped to, and then the date that it's going to be shipped on. It's grabbing the sales rep's email address, and then it's throwing in the salesperson's name at the end. So all that information comes from a query. Nobody had to touch anything other than the initial setup of this event to generate this email out to the customer as an order acknowledgement. And I've got a list of different order acknowledgments, so it ran through and for all of my orders in, I think, September of 2019, it sent out. I can have Knowledge Sync also do calculations for me. So it can go out and do things like add the order price and the freight price to get a total price. It can help me calculate percentages. So those are all just, formulas that you would set up as part of the query. And I can also have Knowledge Sync break up information. So my alerts and workflow can go through, and I've got a list of all of the different orders in September 2019, but I want it broken up in the emails and parsed out by region. And so you can see here in my inbox here, I've got different emails, one for each sales region. Okay. Again, something new that we've added that is kind of cool is the ability. Previously, we had sort of the poor man's ability to send text messages, which was you had to know what each provider's email was, like at vzw.com for Verizon Wireless, and then phone number at vzw.net. Now you can actually sign up for a Twilio account and use that, and for fractions of a cent, send out text messages. So that's a handy tool as well. And that, and an enhancement in more recent versions. Okay, so I have rattled and prattled on here for quite a bit. Greg, is there anything?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Mike. That was great. Appreciate it. It's a lot to do. The Sage Alerts and Workflow comes with 80 predefined events and triggers associated with it. So as soon as you install the software, Baracus Bloom's team puts the software in, you've got 80 of these type of events that can come at you. You probably don't want to install all 80 of them at once, but just get 2 or 3 running, getting the value out of it. The typical ROI on this solution is under 90 days, because something's going to happen, some event's going to trigger that's going to save a customer experience. Something happened with my inventory, something changed, and we've been able to solve a problem. So the way we phrase it is a smoke detector for your business. Or if you'd only known, you could have changed that outcome. So you don't want to get to the end of the month to determine things that if you could have that visibility in the software was sending that information to you, you could have changed an event or an experience. The other things I want to point out is it's for Providex and SQL of Sage 100, but over and above that, all the ISV solutions that surround your enterprise to make Sage 100 successful for your business, be it Scanco or Inventory Advisor, also have event packs that are built out for them. So not only are you getting the power of Sage 100, but you're getting all the ecosystem partners that wrap around that enterprise and be able to get that, what Mike referred to it as a dashboard effect. So we can pull data from multiple different databases, simultaneously compare them, add and change data within those other databases, and give you one holistic view of your business just from your dashboard moving forward. So with those 80 different events, and then use the Baracus team to help expand that events. If there's something specific to your business needs, as you saw when Mike did it, we can take an event that he's already built and then just start editing it. Hey, I really want to add in this date, or I really want to add in this name. So there is no limitation being soft coded that you can add or create events that are unique to your business environment. It does run on both perpetual license plays install, the client server, a cloud base, the Sage Partner Cloud, a hosted clouding solution. So the way that you're deploying as a customer, this solution will work within any deployment model that you have. Its current version is 2021. So we've just gone through the certifications for the latest version of Sage 100. So we're good to go. And then we'll run with Sage products until they grandfather them. So they're usually back 3 versions of the Sage products moving forward, going in that direction. Outside of Sage 100, if you're running Sage CRM or Sage HRMS or other solutions, you can again use that cross-reference of data going forward. So we do have event packs for those other solutions as well. So not only are you getting the 80 events for 100, you could be getting another 60 events for HRMS. So all of a sudden, you know, you can have 300 or 400 events running within your organization that run 24/7 monitoring your business. You can drive people crazy if you want, just sending them alerts. But I mean, you can also tailor that down. Instead of sending the haystack, send the needles that are important to each individual people within your organization or externally to your customers or partner base or inventory base. So with that, Mike, I do appreciate it. We've come really to the top of our time frame. Any additional information, Baracus Bloom can certainly help you out. Also on our website, alertsandworkflow.com, you'll find all kinds of great literature. You're welcome to, with your partner's permission, is download the software. You get a full functioning version for 30 days. Where you can download the software, download the event pack, install it, run it, get familiar with the product, get a couple alerts running, see the value and benefit of it to your own business before you move forward. So that's available to you as well. And then also, we do have recorded videos of the complete product. If you'd like to download or contact me at swallowit.knowledgesync.com, we can get those out to you. So that you can socialize them within your organization, get a chance to share this with other team members and say, hey, I see some value in this. How can we execute it within our own organization?